This is KLAATU at WVUM, Little Neutrino from their first album, KLAATU. Coming up, Brad Fraley and KLAATU interview.
Good evening, it's 9:05 here at FM 90 WVUM, and you want to give us our legal ID for us, Terry?
Hi there, this is WVUM Coral Gables.
And that's exactly right, as Little Neutrino goes boom. This is Terry. This is Terry Draper, the drummer of KLAATU, am I correct?
That's right.
And this is your first big interview out here in America, true?
Out here, down there in America, yeah, that's right.
Down there, that's right. We're here at WVUM Coral Gables interviewing Terry Draper of KLAATU. If you'd like to make a comment or call up, it's 284-5786 is the number to call, 305 if you're somewhere out of state or up in Canada listening. I have a question that is bothering me a little bit about Canada. What's the weather like up there?
The weather is unseasonable. It's not June weather. It's a little cool. It's not hot. We don't have our shorts on.
Ah, you ought to.
I did a couple of weeks ago, but it's been a weird winter.
Boom, I noticed the phones just lit up, so I have a feeling we've got lots of questions coming.
Oh, well, I'm ready.
Good. One thing that I want to know that's probably been bothering a lot of people, what gave you the concept and idea to keep yourself hidden all these years?
Well, actually, Brad, it all started off that we just were three guys. We'd played in a lot of bands around Toronto, and we got fairly fed up with the scene, you know, playing bars every night and all the hype and the high profile and the stuff that had started to happen in the 70s. So we decided that we'd all get normal jobs, you know, do different things. One guy worked in an electronics factory and stuff like that. And then we started to make this album on the side as a hobby.
Right.
We didn't even set out to make an album. We just started recording songs.
Just for the fun of it, sort of.
Just for the fun of it, yeah, with Terry Brown, who produces Rush.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
And Terry Brown lives in Toronto here, and he liked some of the material we had and said, hey, let's record some of that stuff. So we started to record it, and it took us 3 years to do the first album. 3 full years. So we all held regular jobs. It went on and on and on.
Yeah, I noticed that some of the music was copyrighted in 74, 75, and 76. I was kind of curious about that.
That's why. Because it was written over all that long period. That's why some of the things sound as good as they do. Because we spent the time.
Right.
Most albums you can't spend that kind of time on. You know, they make the Knack album in 10 days. You know,
yeah. Some of Elton John's songs were written in 8 days and boom, recorded over there. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road album, I think it was done in like 8 days or 8 weeks.
Oh, it's amazing. It sounds that good for that. Like the Led Zeppelin 1 album was done on that sort of schedule.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So how did the members of KLAATU form in the first place? How did they come together?
Well, John and I, John's the main writer and the main singer. He also plays bass and a lot of keyboards. But John and I went to public school together. Just we're Beatles fans, obviously, and like British music very much, and just kept in touch and worked together and wrote together. And then Dee, he joined us. So I met Dee actually first in 1968. He was playing in this really psychedelic band called the Polychromatic Experiment.
It sounds psychedelic.
Oh, it was psychedelic, boy. They did Inagata Devita, Incense and Peppermints. They were way out there.
Yeah.
And Dee plays incredible lead guitar. So I guess it was around 1971 or 2, the three of us got together and started working. Off and on, you know, and we were in a band together. It didn't work out. And then when we met Terry Brown, it all sort of fell into place.
That sounds good. You mentioned the Beatles. Now, here's a question you know I'm going to ask you. Obvious KLAATU isn't the Beatles, but when that rumor was going around, how did you feel about that? You know, like...
Well, obviously, I was flattered beyond belief.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I grew up in the 60s, and the Beatles are really my idol.
Yeah.
And to be compared to them is, you know, not even just compared to them, but to be mistaken for them.
Really, I was wondering because...
Extremely flattering.
It could have either stricken you as a good thing by being compared to them, or it might have hurt you, and hopefully it didn't, but I've always been curious as to that.
Well, it did have its good and bad aspects. Funny you should mention it.
Yeah.
It paid off really well at first because we got into a lot of people's houses. A lot of people were giving us an ear. And that's all we ever asked for. It was for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Part of the anonymity thing was we had this idealistic, naive belief we wanted the music to speak for itself.
Yeah, that works out pretty well, too.
Well, yeah, it did to a point, but then the Beatles thing happened, and the record sales skyrocketed, and the industry turned around and blamed us and said we perpetrated the whole hoax.
Yeah, that's pretty bad and stuff.
Well, it wasn't. We had nothing to do with it. As a matter of fact, we were in London, London, England, recording the London Symphony on the Hope album.
Yeah, I was curious where you got all the fantastic instruments from and stuff.
It was in England.
Ah.
And we were there in March of '76 when that, 77, sorry, when that rumor exploded.
Was have there been any changes in the group personnel since the first albums?
No, there's been the three of us since the beginning, and we have no compunction about hiring sidemen. We've gotten Mo Kaufman to play saxes and flutes and string players and horn players. You know, it's not a problem.
So there's three members in the group: yourself, John Wallachuk, and Dee Long.
There's three of us. That's it.
Wow.
Right, and Terry Brown was actually considered to be a fourth member for quite a while because he was an expert engineer and producer. And his contribution was equal to ours.
Okay, something that a lot of people are probably curious about. We know you got the name KLAATU from the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still, but was there any particular reason why you picked that name?
Well, if you were to watch the film again and watch very closely, the last speech that KLAATU makes, if you could substitute, every time he says he's going to obliterate the world, if you substitute the word music industry instead of world every time, you'll understand what we're talking about. We just had the same philosophies and beliefs he did.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. On the Endangered Species album, somebody has co-written some of the songs. The last name is T-O-M-E, Tome.
Yeah.
Is that just, you know, a friend that helped write, or?
That's a friend of John's, actually, an old friend from school that John gets together and writes with occasionally. Dino doesn't play or sing with this, but he does write.
Yeah, we were just curious. Somebody came in and handed me a piece of paper and said, "Who's Tome?" And you know,
yeah, right.
Kind of curious about that. So, you're pretty excited that the Endangered Species album, is it being pretty well covered up in Canada?
Yeah, we're getting a fair amount of exposure.
Great.
It's doing really well here in Toronto. But I think that's got a lot to do with the graphics.
Yeah, all your album covers are like really fantastic. I was going to ask you about the Sir Army Suit album. Are the people that are on there, are those caricatures of the group, or? Yeah,
there is, as a matter of fact. With the new the bios and the photos that we've just done to send around, you'll be obvious who's who. It's got our names on it and everything.
Yeah, some people.
Are you looking at the front there?
Not particularly, no. I can go get it.
Because Ted Jones is the guy in the middle who did the other three album covers.
Yeah, the album covers are like fantastic. He did this one too?
He did Endangered Species, and he did Hope, and he did the first album. He did not do the one that he appears on, ironically enough.
Yeah, because I noticed that there was no name on that album cover, or no initial.
Right, that's right. That's very observant, Brad.
There's a lot of stuff I want to ask you about the album covers. Why is there a mouse on all of them?
Why is there a mouse? Actually, we were doing the first album cover, and we didn't want to have any people on it. We wanted to have this holy type eternal sun up there.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
And some kind of life. And so the artist, Ted Jones, he erroneously suggested we use a beaver. After we punched him out, then we said, no, let's go for a mouse. Mouse it was. And there's something even more interesting than that. Right at the end of Little Neutrino.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, too.
The little mouse beep?
Yeah, and it's on the first song on Hope, too.
Yeah, but you know what that is? On the end of Little Neutrino, it's an accident.
Oh.
The cover was already done, and we had the mouse on it and everything. And we were mixing down Little Neutrino, and after the song ended, we erased a bunch of stuff we weren't using. And there's one fraction of a second left of a Moog synthesizer note. Didn't erase. And it sounds like a little mouse squeak.
Yeah, it's like, it sounds really, sticks out, sort of.
Yeah, it does sound like that.
And it's on the first note, it's the first note on the Hope album, too, and I was
We actually put that on there. We took it off of the old album and put it on the new one.
Yeah, I noticed they sounded quite similar. It's really interesting. Was it mutually agreed upon for y'all to stay anonymous from the beginning? I guess it was.
Yeah, we're not totally wild about the rock and roll scene, you know. I'm not much of a Hollywood-type guy. We just wanted to keep normal lives, be normal people, be able to go to the store and out to dinner when we felt like it.
Yeah.
You know, I guess it's kind of selfish.
Yeah.
But it was a good thing we did keep low, because if we'd have been out there in the midst of the Beatles, maelstrom, we'd have been trampled, I'm sure.
I noticed that on the Endangered Species album, there's not as much, you know, electronical studio wizardry, I guess you could call it.
Well, I'll tell you why. we set out to make an album that can be reproduced on stage.
Right.
Effectively.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff on our earlier album will not be done. You'll never see KLAATU play Little Neutrino live right now.
I didn't think so. It'd be pretty hard.
There's some stuff that we'll be able to do, like Calling Occupants we could do.
Yeah, that's a fantastic song.
Sub Rosa Subway. There's a lot of stuff we could do that's not that difficult.
Yeah. Did it kind of impress you when the Carpenters redid Calling Occupants?
Yeah, that was great. I've always been a Carpenters fan, even before they covered our stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I liked all their early stuff, and it was really great.
Yeah, I was pretty happy about that myself. It sort of surprised me when we got the album, and it went, boom, there's a KLAATU song in there, and it was like, whoa, it just it was different, that's for sure. That was pretty... somebody out in Hialeah, a friend of mine that lives up in Hialeah, wanted to know what gave you the idea to conceive the album Hope as a story, and, you know, was like something from a dream, or did you just write it and came about?
No, it was actually a science fiction story that I kind of made up. I just, you know, there is actually an asteroid belt in outer space there, eh?
Right.
Between Mars and Jupiter.
Right.
And I just come up with the theory that it used to be a whole planet that got blown to pieces by an incompetent race of people, you know?
Yeah.
A violent type of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what it is. And there's one survivor, and he's the lighthouse keeper, and he runs this lighthouse so that all the spaceships and the cargo ships don't crash into the asteroids.
Uh-huh.
He figures it's the least he can do, seeing as how his society made such a mess of their end of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a real heavy martyr type story, and the answer, of course, is hope.
Yeah, it sounds like something like they might want to make a movie from.
Yeah, we were actually approached to do an animation about it at one point.
That would have been very interesting.
It was 90-minute feature would have been so expensive in good animation that we just passed. And we've done a few shorts, actually, from some of the songs.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. We saw A Routine Day, the animation from that.
That's right. That was done by the people that approached us to do Hope.
Uh-huh.
And now they've since done 5 more songs. They did Sub Rosa,
oh, yeah?
Calling Occupants, and 3 more songs from Sir Army Suit.
Wow, I want to see those.
Well, it's a TV special called Happy New Year, Planet Earth.
Oh, yeah?
And hopefully it'll be on the networks around New Year's.
Great. That's something definitely to look for.
Yeah, something to look for. I hope it'll be on. It's not quite your crass commercial cartoon that you usually see, you know, Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving and stuff.
Right.
But it might get on. I hope so.
Yeah. Why somebody called in, they wanted to know why some of the songs are so scientific. You know, or like, are you really into science or something, or?
Well, we're all real science fiction fanatics. As you can tell, we chose the name of the band from a science fiction movie.
Right.
Well, we read a lot of Asimov and all sorts of just science fiction. You know, I love good movies, those late movies, you know, The Thing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're all into science fiction very much.
Uh-huh. On the album Sir Army Suit, on the song Mr. Manson, that's a real ear catcher. During the break in the song, so to speak, is that Adolf Hitler really, when all the machine guns start and all the he's crazy and all that stuff?
Yeah, it actually is. That was a whim. That's one of the things I've listened back to a few times and said, geez, I don't know if I should have did that or not.
It's really ear-catching, so you have to listen to that really closely to notice the Hitler part, you know. Yeah,
we tried to make it conceal it a little bit, but it is kind of a weird thing to put Hitler on one of your records.
Mm-hmm.
But there it is.
Yeah.
But it stands.
Going back to the first album, which member of the group was the one who did such a good job of sounding like the Muppets during Sir Bodsworth Rugglesby?
Oh, that was John sang the lead vocal in that song.
Because it's like, boom, it sounds like the Muppets on the album, and I was going, whoa, hold on.
Yeah, but all the background voices, we did all those together, and they've been sped up, eh?
Yeah.
You just speed up the tape recorder, and then when you slow it down, the voice gets bigger.
Yeah, we do that sometimes in production here. On the second album, Madman, that's like really rock and roll. It went, from...
Electronic rock and roll.
Yeah, it's like really boom rock. It was almost a shock because on the first album, you weren't really that hard rock. And boom, Madman. Like, wow, it just really stuck out, I guess.
Yeah, I'm glad you like that one.
Yeah, it's a good song. What kind of music do you like other than your own?
Well, I listen to some pretty wild stuff. I like 10cc.
Yeah.
I really like 10cc's sheet music album.
Mm-hmm.
Wall Street Shuffle and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
And what else? I listen to a lot of Zappa. I think Zappa's genius.
The VUM fans will love you for that. They just, boom, tons of Zappa requests all the time.
Yeah, he's great. He's done some amazing things.
Yes, that's true.
And some of my early major influences has got to be King Crimson.
Yeah.
I think King Crimson's first album is a masterpiece. I love it. And the Moody Blues and Pink Floyd.
Yeah, you can see it being sort of influenced, I guess, in your albums. Not totally, but, you know, some English old rock and roll influences in your albums.
Old Traffic stuff, too, like Paper Sun.
What do you think
My Shoe.
What do you think of new wave music?
I like some of the new wave music. I think it really rocks on. It's got the viciousness. It's got the aggressive feeling that the disco lacked. Disco was just so corporate.
Yeah.
Corporate rock and roll.
Yeah.
And the new wave is at least bringing us out of that. It's got some excitement in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good direction.
That's definitely true. So now that you're revealing yourselves, will you be doing tours, hopefully, in America?
Well, I was explaining to you earlier, Brad, that the Endangered Species album is an attempt to make a product that we can reproduce very accurately on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because we're hoping to do a fall tour.
That'd be great. Would that just be in Canada or hopefully in the United States, maybe?
Well, I mean, if it materializes, we'll definitely be doing stateside. We may even start in Europe.
Great, that sounds interesting.
It'll be a big thing or it won't happen. We've got to do it right. That's one of the reasons we've waited.
Yeah, I just got a note that said Miami, so
Miami?
I think some people want you down here.
Okay, well, that sounds great to me. Tell Train.
Yeah, we'll definitely try to work that out. Cause something that I've always wondered, and somebody just handed me a note that said that too. On the first album, during Sub Rosa Subway, there's Morse code in the background.
Right.
What does that mean, or does it say anything at all?
It does say something, actually, but, I mean, even if we had been saying, row, row, row your boat, we still would have had it in there.
Right.
What it's saying is not important. We wanted the sound of the SOS happening in the background. Not the SOS, but the Morse code happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a little story. It doesn't really mean much except to us.
I see. So I got to really listen and get somebody that knows Morse code to decipher it for me.
Yeah, actually somebody tried in Australia, and they came up with the first two words as Starship Apple.
Aha.
So they thought we were the Beatles, but they're wrong.
Yeah, no.
There's an anti-clue.
I see. I've noticed that who did you say? Ted Jones was the one that did the album covers, right?
That's right.
Because on the first two albums, they seem sort of similar as far as the artists, and then on the Sir Army Suit album, it sort of changed, I guess because somebody else did it, you said, and it seems sort of different too on the Endangered Species album, so I was curious if somebody had done all four albums.
No, Ted had done the first two, and then he did the new one, Endangered Species. But the third one was done by a guy named Hugh Syme here in Toronto, and we chose him to do it because we wanted our likenesses to appear, like character drawings, you know?
Right, I guess he's obviously a good caricaturist.
Yeah, and Ted's forte is not drawing people.
Yeah.
As you can see, he's good at mices.
Yeah, he's good at mice, yeah, you can tell that for sure. Yeah, let's see. On the second album, Hope, obviously you did not perform all the instruments. You said the London Symphony Orchestra was back there?
Correct. We played, I think, about 4 days in the studio with an 83-piece orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
And they all had, well, not all of them, but about 10% of the orchestra had headphones on, and they were overdubbing their 83 parts to bass, drums, guitar, and piano that we'd already laid down here in Toronto.
Oh, I see. That sounds interesting, especially because there's so much kind of music. That's one of my mom's favorite songs, as a matter of fact, because, you know, like, it changes so much. 1 minute it sounds like a high school marching band, and it's an orchestra. It's really...
What we set out to get, actually.
Yeah, I was listening to that album this afternoon. My mom says, wow, what is that? I really like that. So, it's even catching for the older audience. Not that my mom...
Send her out to buy a copy of Endangered Species. You might like it. Yeah,
I've been playing that every once in a while, too. When I'm usually not at home. I'm usually here, believe it or not, almost 24 hours a day.
Oh. Sounds like you enjoy it, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Referring to the Sir Army Suit album, what in the world is a perpetual motion machine?
Perpetual motion machine is something that doesn't exist.
It sounds that way. I was just wondering if it was...
There's no such thing as a perpetual motion machine. Even the sun is going to burn out.
Yeah.
Right? But Dee just thought it was a nifty little idea, and so he turned it into a KTEL ad. You get KTEL down there?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, you know, those kind of cheap TV commercials. That's what it's supposed to be. This guy's trying to sell you one even though you don't need it.
Right, I see. Okay. That sort of sounds like what it was, but I was wondering if maybe it had been written up from something that actually might have existed.
No, it's just a weird idea of Dee's. He's way out there.
Okay, now we're going to start plugging the Endangered Species album. On the song All Good Things, that seems like it's really mellow for KLAATU, and it seems to be like a tribute for somebody's dog that died. Is that true, or is it just a story about that?
Well, it wasn't true. John wrote that one. He wrote it for his father's dog.
Ah.
He grew up with his father and their dog.
Mm-hmm.
And when he left, after a while, the dog passed away, and he wrote this sad song for the dog. But while we were recording the album, his own dog passed away.
Oh.
It was a heavy ordeal.
Yeah, it sounds that way. It sounds like, because it's such a pretty song, and it's really emotional. The way he sings it, you can really feel it in his voice.
Yes, you can, yeah. Short and sweet, that one.
Yeah, it's a really short song. It's really good. It's really effective, that's for sure. On the song Sell Out, there's some really different sounds for KLAATU as far as like the slide voice box guitar and stuff. Sounds like,
oh yeah, the mouth tube thing.
Yeah, it sounds like Joe Walsh is with the album.
Yeah, that's Dee playing that thing.
Yeah, and also when they go crank up that funk machine, that sort of sticks out too.
Yeah, right.
And it's like a really funky rock song. So, and also the meaning behind it, money. Is there any particular reason for for such a? It's like that appears to me, or seems to me, to be like a tribute to not having any money.
Well, it's sort of to fill all the real diehard KLAATU fans in on what's been happening with us for the past few years. The struggle that we've had to go on making records.
Mm-hmm.
Because of our low profile. You know, we didn't really want to play live until the time was right. And
yeah.
we just avoided all that thing, and this is where it's gotten us, sort of. So John wrote that little ditty. It's basically what we're trying to do is write a whole song without changing chords.
Right. Because the song is like it sounds a really good song, and it just the slide box is really good. Hotter than Joe Walsh too.
Like Hotbox?
Yeah.
That's Tom Scott on the sax.
Yeah?
Yeah, we did the new album in Los Angeles.
Uh-huh.
Or, that's down near you, right?
Well, not really, no.
No, but in the same country. No, it's a joke. I think you missed it.
Oh, okay. It's as far south as us, just about, but sort of about 4,000 miles away.
Yeah, right. Well, it's just as far for us. But we went down there and did that, and Tommy was great. He blew us away.
Yeah, he's
couldn't believe it.
The song Knee Deep in Love, we got the single from that about a month and a half ago here at VUM, and we've been really playing that a lot. We were really going crazy waiting for the Endangered Species album because so many people were into Knee Deep in Love. That's a really good song too. Is there any particular story behind that?
No, it's one of John's songs, and he'll just tell you if you ask him that it's just a nice little love song that he felt had to come out one day.
Yeah, I was just curious if there was a story. Maybe somebody might have broken up with somebody or that kind of thing.
No, you have to call Rona Barrett if you want that kind of information.
Does she know stuff about you guys?
No, she doesn't.
Well, that's good.
No.
You never know what she might say.
Yeah, really. Start a rumor of some kind, eh?
Really. Want to remind the listeners out there, if you have any particular questions for Terry, you can call us up now, 284-5786. The lines are open, and somebody will answer the phone and relay the message to me if you'd like to ask Terry Draper. He's a drummer of KLAATU, and give us a plug again. What did I tell you to say before?
WUVM?
Wrong.
Coral Gables?
Wrong.
WVUM?
Right.
WVUM, that's the one in Coral Gables.
That's right. It's probably the best rock and roll station in South Florida, that's for sure.
Oh.
At least as far as I'm concerned. I don't know anybody else.
Sounds like it to me.
Yeah. The that little chirp on the first side of Hope and at the end, that's like really cool. It's
like that.
Yeah, it's an accident, eh?
It was an accident, yeah, but it's the kind of thing that when we finally did hear it, it's not very often we let the tape roll out that far when you're working on a song. As soon as you get to the end, you go back, eh?
Right.
But one night we were just listening to all the work we'd done, and we let the tape roll right off the spool, and there was this little beep 5 seconds after the end of the song, and we were thrilled to death. We just thought it was fabulous. It's one of those things that we call a tightness, a very cosmic sort of thing that we'd have done if we could have thought of, but having not thought of it was so much more interesting.
Really. Besides playing the drums, what other instruments do you play?
Oh, I play a bit of keyboards in the band occasionally. I'll do some organ and some synthesizer and stuff. And but I play piano and guitar, and that's about it. You know, I tried to play flute when I was in high school, but I was a dismal failure.
I noticed that you don't write, well, at least not on the Endangered Species songs.
No, I didn't. The only song I've really written is I co-wrote Calling Occupants with John.
Mm-hmm.
We did that one together, and I sort of drew up the theme for the Hope album, the concept of it and everything, and John and Dee put all the music together.
Yeah, I was noticing the different names and titles, and you just weren't there, and I was like,
Oh, that's right. They're mostly the writers. They both got grade 8 piano and a real long musical background, whereas I've been concentrated on rhythm and playing drums.
Right. Where did you get the idea to name Endangered Species Endangered Species?
Well, we thought it was it was time that we got some real nice graphics out there. I think there's a bit of a lull in the album art scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely.
I don't like record covers these days. I'm just not wild about them. And plus, Endangered Species is something that we really believe in, that we think, should bring to the attention of the public. And on the other hand, we didn't want to get up on a soapbox and lecture people about, conserving the world and all that stuff.
Yeah, I noticed the little note that was in there to write the society.
Right. But and the other part of the thing is that we don't want to actually become on the list of endangered species ourselves.
How did you get together with the International Union for Conservation of the Nature and Natural Resources?
Frank Davies did that for us. He's the president of Daffodil Records up here.
Right.
And, you're familiar with Frank's name?
Yeah, he's been your representative for.
He's been our representative. Yeah, he was actually deemed by the media to be our manager, but he's not actually our manager.
Oh.
It's just a representative. It's a perfect choice of words.
Yeah. Do you have a manager?
We do now. We just about 3 months ago, when we decided to get this album out there and really get it happening once it was finished and to go live, we hired Fred Heller from New York. Freddie, he manages a few big people. He does Blood, Sweat, and Tears. He manages Michael Franks. And a host of others that I can't rattle right off.
Yeah.
But he's now consented to look after us.
Somebody called up and they want to know, what does Sir Army Suit mean?
Sir Army Suit mean? Well, it's a nice-sounding phrase, sort of.
Definitely.
But actually, the last song on that album is called Silly Boys.
Right.
I don't know how familiar you are with that tune.
Very familiar.
It sounds like it's backwards. All the words sound kind of weird.
Yeah, and it's printed backwards on the inside of the album. And you have
right. That's because I'll tell you something interesting. What we did was we took Anus of Uranus off the first album.
Right.
I can say that over the air without getting in trouble, eh?
Yeah, we say it when we play it, so I guess it's okay.
So we take that and we turned it around backwards.
And
listened to it. The whole song, played it backwards.
Right.
And there was all these weird words we could hear, statements happening. We could see all sorts of stuff in it. So what we did was we left the drum track on it, so we heard backwards drums, and put all new music going forward and used the backwards vocal.
Oh.
So now if you turn that song around, Silly Boys I'm talking about now.
Right.
You tape Silly Boys and play it backwards, you'll hear all this backwards music with some guy singing the lyrics from Anus of Uranus.
Really?
I kid you not.
Wow.
Do it sometime. Just record it and play it backwards on your tape recorder.
That sounds very interesting. I think I'm going to have to get this guy in here now and cue that up.
Yeah, cue that up. Good idea, Brad.
I would love to. I can't do it right now because I'm talking on the phone, but I'm having my buddy Glenn here do that because I want to hear that. That's like pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was what we tried to do. We just, Sir Army Suit to us was a kind of a pop album. We wanted to do a straight album, no concepts, short little numbers.
Yeah, bound my juicy.
And after 9 songs of that, we figured, hey, we got to get weird here.
You sure did.
So out we went.
Wow.
And that's how we went out with Silly Boys.
Yeah, that's.
And the Silly Boys are, of course, us.
Oh, I guess so. I wouldn't really know. Especially like Juicy Lucy, that's like really funky. You know,
yeah, that was working our way towards Sell Out and Set the World on Fire.
Right.
Starting to explore that medium, that rhythm and blues-based medium that we'd never really attempted before. Just expanding. We like to try and keep everything different, you know. We always like to go in a new direction.
Yeah. Are you done with your ice cream cone?
Oh, I finished it a long time ago. Yeah, before we went on the air, actually. It was real good. Chocolate.
Ah, sounds like interesting. Your girlfriend made that for you, huh?
Yeah, she did.
Oh.
Now she's sitting here studying.
Speaking of that, I was just curious. Did you let her in on the KLAATU secret before, or did she know? Or?
Yeah, I let her in on it. I wasn't going to keep that big a secret from her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What's your zodiac sign? Somebody just call it one to know that.
Virgo.
You're Virgo. What? Oh, yeah. What about the rest of the group?
John's a Pisces.
So am I.
And D, I don't know. I think D was born on this planet, but I'm not totally sure about that.
He's a mouse, you can say.
D's kind of a weird guy. I don't know what his sign is.
What's John's birthday?
Pardon?
What's John's birthday?
March 13th.
Oh, mine's the 14th.
Oh, well then
that's
you guys
close.
must be close together.
I guess so. Maybe that's how I got. It's a funny story actually. How I got first exposed to KLAATU. I was sitting around my friend's house, and he had a friend come over that worked at a radio station at Vanderbilt University, and we were listening to old air checks of his show, and he had this tape there that said KLAATU on it, and I had never heard of KLAATU, and because it was like right when your album came out, the first album, and I was like, what does KLAATU mean? So he played it for me, and I went boom. The next day I went, bought the album, the cassette, and the 8-track, and everywhere I went, I listened to the album and just ground it into my head.
Well, that's great.
So
nice to meet people and talk to them who are real diehard fans.
Yeah, when I got over to WVUM, the tape ended. When I got over to WVUM, the first thing I looked for was to see if they had the KLAATU albums, because I was darn sure going to bring mine in if they didn't have them, and sure enough they did. And a while back, I had a T-shirt made up from the cover of the first album.
How'd it turn out?
Really good. It's like a caricature of the album. It looks really neat.
That sounds great.
And it's like, this guy said, "You have a KLAATU T-shirt? Where'd you get that?" And it was like, I told him I made it up, and I was into KLAATU, and his name is Jay Tobias. I assume he's listening right now. He better be. And
hi there.
Yeah, hi Jay. So he was pretty into that, and we got started talking, and for like the longest time, this was last September, and I had been waiting around then. I expected another album from y'all, and didn't get it until now, and it was a pretty long time. Why was it the fact, a year and I believe it was a year and 8 months before you had another album out? Why was it that it took so long?
Well, usually they do take that long. Like the first album, as I said, took 3 years. The second one took a full year, right to the day. From the day we started working on it till the day we finished it was exactly a year. And Army Suit was only about 9 months. And although the new one, we only spent 3 months in Los Angeles, we spent about 7 or 8 months previous to that, all last year, making demos. We came up with about 25 demos that we proposed to our producer, and he picked his choice. He picked 9 and said, let's go with these.
No, I was curious because, like, the other ones that came out it was about a year apart, all three of the first albums.
Yeah, they were about a year apart. Well, actually, it seems like that because the first album didn't really get noticed until March of '77.
Right.
So it was released in August '76. It sat on the shelves for 6 months with nary a word.
Huh, that's too bad.
Yeah, it was too bad, but we were already halfway through the Hope album.
Oh, because I was just curious. A few months ago, we were wondering, well, maybe they broke up, or maybe they're not doing another album, or we weren't sure what y'all were doing. And, we couldn't find out anything. I called up Train, I guess from October till January, asking him, are they having a new album? And he didn't know, and nobody knew, and we were sort of worried around here.
Yeah, well, we're looking forward to doing a 5th, actually.
Well, I hope so. You deserve to, anyway. So, you're hopefully going to be doing concerts.
Yeah, we're looking forward to doing that this fall.
Yeah,
we're ready.
How was the tour of it was Western Canada?
Well, we started in Toronto, and we went to Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver. The 5 of the major places in Canada.
How was the response to that?
Very good. It was really good. Some places was quite amazing, actually. I guess it's just people like yourself who have always wanted to know what this is all about, like the music, but could never get any questions answered.
Yeah.
And here we are now to answer them.
Well, I really appreciate your taking the time to come out,
it's been a pleasure.
Stick on the phone. So what time is it up there? It's 9:37, 9:38?
9:37? I don't know. I don't have a clock.
Yeah, it's 9:37. When I talked to Train this morning, he said call him at 9, and I wasn't sure that you were in the same time zone as us.
Oh, yeah, I checked with him to make sure I was.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, what? I hope I don't get in trouble here and call you an hour late or...
No, you're right.
So it was really
Oh, you got me. We're all on the same time.
Yeah. So, did you ever play clubs before with KLAATU or no, or...?
KLAATU never played clubs, but all three of us have individually in various bands and, you know, stuff like that. Just around town, you know, playing the bar circuit. We paid our dues.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I believe it. You paid some good dues with these 4 albums, that's for sure. The response to the Endangered Species album has been pretty good.
Glad to hear it.
As, you know, when we first got it, I guess we were the first station down around here to play it.
Probably, you probably were.
And
gotten some interesting reactions on it too, because it's quite a departure from our space sci-fi oriented music.
Yeah, it seems to be a little bit more commercialized.
Well, we're trying to get both feet on the ground. You know, part of the reason that we don't have as large a following as we think we might is that the music has been a little too complicated.
Yeah.
We think that we're guilty of putting too much icing on the cake. Too much icing and not enough cake. So the new album is a little more cake.
Yeah.
A little less icing.
Yeah, it's really it's a very interesting album. You know, some of the lyrics on it are pretty good. Dog Star is one of my favorite songs from that.
Oh, that's good. I'll tell Dee about that.
Yeah. So, people keep wanting to know what you look like. It's like really odd. Do you have, you know, are you like short hair, long hair, are you tall, skinny?
No, I guess I got shoulder-length hair and a little mustache there.
Mm-hmm.
A long mustache, actually.
Long?
Yeah, I look like a Woodstock refugee.
So were you personally affected by 50s and 60s rock and roll, or did you like you know, to be more progressive, or how were you affected by the old rock and roll?
I was a real old rock and roll fan. Yeah, when I was I guess I don't know, I was 10 or 11. I used to live with my grandmother and my uncle and my parents, of course, and he was really into rock and roll. He turned me on to Elvis Presley and all that stuff. And then the Beatles in the 60s. I mean, I was the biggest Beatles and Rolling Stones fan around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's very, sometimes John sounds like Paul McCartney every once in a while, especially like on Sub Rosa Subway. That was the first song that I heard from KLAATU when my friend played that tape for me, and it was like, he said, who does this sound like? And we all said, the Beatles, but it can't be, and it was all, you know, it was like really unusual. And then I heard that, that rumor stuff about, you know, you were the Beatles and all this stuff, and it was like, it was blowing my mind, actually, because I didn't want it, I guess.
Yeah, well, we're obviously Beatle fans, Brad,
Yeah.
and no taking that away.
Yeah.
They're first and foremost on our list of, it's classical music of our time.
Yeah.
Well, it's timeless music, and we all love it very much, and so we've tried to emulate it in a few instances. I mean, not consciously tried to copy it.
Oh, no.
I mean, if you love something, it comes back out.
Right.
And but there's other songs that don't sound a bit like the Beatles, like Little Neutrino. I mean, that doesn't sound like the Beatles at all. It sounds more like Jimi Hendrix. It doesn't sound like that either.
Yeah, it doesn't, yeah.
Other songs have got Moody Blues influences and King Crimson.
Yeah.
A lot of different influences, but the people, the public, they want the Beatles to get back together so badly.
Yeah, they'll do anything.
They'll do anything to get it back together, yes.
I'm sure they think half the new wave groups are the Beatles or something, or Beatle influenced anyway.
Yeah, like the Knack, they went and...
Yeah,